Hey, what is up, guys? Big Gamer out here. How are you guys doing today? I'm super, thanks for asking. Welcome, guys, to Raiders of the Worst Game, the series where I hunt down and play the worst games. So, guys, for this week's Raiders of the Worst Game, we have Busby 3D on the PlayStation. Now, this game is notorious for being a bad game, though despite this, the reviews at the time, back in the early days of 1996, if you guys can remember that far back, were actually mixed. The game did score an average on Game Rankers of 51%, and that's mostly due to kind of publications like Absolute PlayStation giving it a 67 out of 100, which is for pretty solid games. GameSpot gave it a 5.5 out of 10, which is, basically throwing up that the game might be average. And then game sites like Electric Playground at 4 out of 10, and EGM with 3.25 out of 10, which is kind of relates more to like a 33 out of 100. And kind of showed that the game maybe had some rather drastic flaws. And if you're looking at the gameplay footage now, the first thing you'll notice is the 3D is early. The PlayStation wasn't the best dedicated 3D platform, and it was usually the skills of the developers that actually got the best 3D out of the system rather than the actual architecture itself. Also, the camera is poor. Now, this is 1996, so this is obviously a D-pad based game, and the PlayStation had a poor D-pad, and that D-pad is responsible for not only controlling the character but the camera as well. And the two don't necessarily follow each other around well. You'll see it's quite awkward at times. At times you can only see part of his body or one of his ears, and that's about all you can get. And the camera will clip through walls and confuse you as to kind of where you are and stuff like that. So the camera and the visuals not good, though not the worst anyone had seen in 1996 for sure. Let's move on to what people said about the game at the time. Now, one excerpt that I chose for this for us to look at was what GameSpot had said, and remember they actually gave it an average review, but they did go as far as to say of all of the 3D platformers on the PlayStation that this one was the least amount of fun, and I kind of have to agree with them there. Despite some pretty trippy Dali-esque visuals, there's not a lot going on in the game. You pick up these little symbols here, these little atom symbols, and you follow some arrows. There's a bit of rudimentary platforming, but the camera's really bad. You can never tell where you're going to be jumping to. The jump is really super canned animation. Most of the enemies don't move at all, and when they do, it's just move to the side to throw a tongue at you. It's super weird. There's lots of these puzzles involving platforms. So basically, can you kind of exit an area of the level using moving or floating platforms? There's quite a bit of that stuff. The thing I really struggled with mostly, and the thing that really drags this game down, because let's be honest, if it was just because of the visuals or just because of the camera, this game would rightfully be a 5 out of 10 game. But the real sticking point is the controls. That it controls so poorly. The gameplay isn't fun. Planning your moves and your jumps is horrendous. He runs quite slow, and when he finally picks up speed, it's really hard to stop him. He kind of slides along as if he was on ice, which is a problem that a lot of the worst NES games had back in the 80s. Was with the slippery platforming. Here we're going to see a few of the enemies throw tongues at Busby. You can get power-ups. This is like similar to collecting the star in Mario Brothers. It kind of makes you invincible. You can kill enemies as you touch them. Here I am falling in the water, and he gives me a big finger. And he counts to 3 for some reason when he drowns, but when he counts to 1, it just seems like he's giving me the middle finger. Which, to be honest, is quite fitting, because that's how I felt when playing this game. It was like someone was giving me the big middle finger. I must admit, we've played some pretty bad games over the last few weeks on Raiders of the Worst Game, but this is the worst so far. Whether or not we've found the worst game here, I'm not quite sure, but I think people were pretty crazy to be calling this a 5 out of 10 game. This is a bad game, guys. I don't recommend that any of you seek this game out or pay for this game. If you pick it up for $1, it might be worth forcing one of your friends to play it just as a laugh, just to watch them squirm as they try to wrestle with the controls. But this isn't a fun game. Games should be fun. Gameplay is king, and this game has no fun and no gameplay. Quite what the objective is, no real idea. It doesn't really tell you. And in a sec you're gonna see. So in a sec you're gonna see him almost comically just walk off of the edge of this platform here, and once again, before drowning slowly in the water, he's gonna give me one last middle finger. So guys, is this the worst game? I'm not sure. It's the worst game we've played recently. I'm going to give this game a 1.5 out of 10. Yeah, that's right, a 1.5. That is a fair bit lower than what we've been giving out recently. If you like the video, guys, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next Raiders of the Worst Game. Cheers, guys.